Wayne Brokaw, Executive Director from 2002, retired in 2015. Well, I was in the service, 66 to 70, I got out and went back to Seattle and was hired by a construction company. They were the #1 private home builders in the state. And they had an opening for someone to work in coordinating projects. And I didn't, a hammer and nail, and a plumber's wrench is about all I knew. And they said, it's okay, you're a veteran, we want to hire you, and you appear to love this. Because during the summers in high school, I worked for a contractor who built private homes. And construction was my love, but I wanted to go back and finish my degree as well. And so that's how it all started, is I went with Terhune, and then when Boeing went south, 3 out of 4 houses on every block were for sale, it went away. So I got to go back and finish my college education at that point in time. But it was always a love, and it was always something I wanted to be a part of, and didn't know if it would ever happen though. I was with Associated Industries as a labor and employee relations consultant, and did safety as well as employee and labor relations. And some of my clients also were members of the AGC, and that's how I began to develop my relationship with Merv Cederblum as the executive director of the AGC. And then from there, Acme hired me full-time to be with them, and so I went on board first as a safety director, then labor human resources director, and then charge of safety, and served on all the committees. And in fact, Acme was the first company to win the Safety Team Award as the retro program was established. Goals and objectives and support. The support was amazing. We needed to turn around the AGC. There were even some discussions of us becoming a part of the AGC of Washington if we weren't able to turn the chapter around totally. And then we also needed to have stability within the membership and show that this was a viable chapter and we had a lot to offer the community and construction. And so that was a major emphasis to get us to the table to be successful. And at the same time, we're looking at doing a remodel as we're trying to financially make it. And so N.A. Degerstrom, Frank Gurney, Tom Stewart, they both stood up and said, here's $50,000 each of them gave. Let's get the remodel going as well, because we are going to survive as a chapter. Well, there were big issues. There wasn't just one. The first and foremost was the survival of the Inland Northwest AGC chapter. We were in deep financial trouble. We had a building that had 25, 30 buckets sitting around to collect the water when it rained. Apprenticeship was on its lips. We had to resurrect our apprenticeship program for the carpenters, the operators, and then also legislative-wise, the North Spokane corridor. So there was actually 4 key issues that were there in the beginning. Oh, the beginning and the events. Probably be the first convention, which may sound kind of crazy, but our first convention, we moved from the Coeur d'Alene back to the Davenport Hotel. That was major. The challenges that faced. Membership. What are we going to do with membership? We have to figure out a way to grow the membership and keep the membership going. And again, the North Spokane corridor. And infrastructure. We needed to work closely in Olympia and with the AGC of Washington and get some infrastructure legislation going to support our industry. I'll put it this way. We had good times and we had tough times. We survived through the process. That's the long and the short of it. It was unbelievable. The lows were low. And I have to say, with Cheryl and the staff, we grabbed a hold of it and we made it work. And in the good times, we were smiling and loving the opportunity to breathe. We survived. Unfortunately, we had to go through a complete staff turnover. From bottom to top, from the janitor all the way up to my position. We had a full turnover to put things together. And the success of that was, my goal in hiring Cheryl was that the two of us created a team. And we wanted a staff that found no greater joy in life than serving others. That's a calling, serving others, and it's special. And not everybody's called to do that, but that's who we were. It didn't matter what someone called with. We're going to take care of you. We're going to make it happen for you. So our biggest thing was our number one priority, serving. And that's what the chapter needed most. And the chapter membership recognized that and grabbed a hold of it for us. I would say it was tough, a complete staff turnover. You had to change attitudes, some membership who felt they were being slighted, and make them all feel part of the family. And we did it. Let's start with who was president and told me to get my butt up here from WSU. Tom Stewart. Tom Stewart. I was at WSU in charge of labor relations for the university, and I was headed to Berkeley. When he called me, as I'm in Berkeley, and says, "Where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm leaving WSU for Berkeley." He says, "No, you're not. When are you getting home?" It's good. We'll see you Saturday morning. So Stewart sat me down and said, "Here's the situation. I really need you to do this for us. And you need it for yourself because we're family." And so that part of Stewart, and I think the other part of Tom Stewart as a president was his understanding and knowing things were not okay. That I couldn't put 2 nickels on the table and have add up to 10 cents twice in a row because everything was such a mess financially. But Tom was there and supportive. And then the other part that Tom was number one on the list is Tom Stewart and Neil Degerstrom each put up $50,000 to remodel the AGC and help move it forward. That was a heavy pull. That was a heavy pull. And I have to say the other thing that was important probably at that point in time was Tom Clark, and what he did with putting Retro together and being an advocate for that for our membership. I got to put that right up there at the top as well. Other memorable presidents. Gosh, this is key. When Jeff Cooney passed away, he was our number one political guru and very, very good at what he did. And I was concerned of what am I going to do, because part of my internship through college was a legislative process, and I was in Washington, D.C., as well as Olympia, Boise, and Salem. Max Cooney would be next, stepping into Jeff's shoes. And with all love and respect for Jeff, I have to say, Max has taken what his dad did to a new level. Max would be the next person I'd have to give recognition to as really being there and knowing my priorities as well as his and the chapters. That was number 3 would probably be Clancy Welsh. And I say that because he got the younger people in construction involved. He was at that age, and with his excitement and energy, And just as a side note, one of my favorites of Max was, of Clancy was he would get the young people together, and I'd say, well, okay, as director, you want me to come and be a part of it? And Clancy would always say, Wayne, no blue hairs are allowed to participate. But that was a beautiful part of Clancy, is his focus on getting the younger people in. Because we were the old guard, and he gave that freshness of clean, bright, new air and another segment of moving forward. So that was key. Oh, the other one. I had one more. Vince Campanella. And the reason Vince was so important was that was the transition as the chapter became Cheryl's chapter. He was there for both of us, understood what we were about, what we were looking forward to move it forward. And Vince was really there for us, mainly with their Cheryl and reassuring her, you know what needs to be done and you know how to do it. So Vince. The last one after that would be probably Carl Stewart. I have to throw Carl in there. And mainly because he was so flexible, and his bottom line is, you do not retire until I finish my presidency. But his flexibility, I think, was important at this point in time, with Cheryl and I talking about transitioning, that he was real flexible and knew and understood who both of us were as well, like Vince did. And that's memorable. Those are special hours that you can't put on a piece of paper when you're the president of the chapter and working with the exec and the assistant. I think it would be attitude. We've always had to fight to get infrastructure monies. And I think that's still our main goal and objective, is we still have not accomplished the goal of getting infrastructure. I mean, you look at Flint, Michigan and water. You look at the highways and the bridges across this country. We could put a couple generations to work forever, just rebuilding our infrastructure. And that's been one of the difficult ones. Have we come a long ways? Yes. The North Spokane corridor is a prime example when the whole state comes together and says, yes, Spokane, we can help you not become Seattle with I-5 in the problems with that. And to see something come together and know when we get that done, what it's going to mean to the state, what it will mean to the people here. So it's the struggle. It's still a struggle to get infrastructure on the plate where it belongs and to get it funded to rebuild America. When we talk about rebuild, that would be the best way to rebuild America. Because you got to remember, Eisenhower created the interstate highway system. And look what the interstate highway system did to America. Now we got to rebuild and expand it. Memorable trips, wow, on so many different levels. When I came on as director, directors did not make the trip to DC with the president, vice president, and second vice president. That changed, not because of me, but that was the time that it changed. So the first part of that was like going home. I was going back to DC, I was going to be back on the Hill, and to be going as part of the AGC, and to see old staff that I knew from previous years, and for them to know what I'm doing and to be able to touch them. Representative Larson was on, Senator from Everett, Scoop Jackson's staff, and I'd worked with him as a staffer, and here he is now as a representative. That was key, and it made every trip to DC really special. And to be able to take our leadership, and for our leadership to know that I had special relationships with staff there was great. Every trip was very memorable. ELC president, first and foremost, I have to thank the leadership of the chapter for allowing me that opportunity. It was a special opportunity. Here you are representing the other 92 executive directors in the chapters. And not only representing the chapter, but you are sitting as a member of the National AGC Board of Directors. And to have that board of directors, these extremely brilliant professional contractors there, and say, Wayne, talk to us about what chapters need, and talk to us about what you see membership needing in your ELC position as you travel the country and get to meet so many people that were where we were yesterday, and now we're in the national board. It was phenomenal. There's not a moment that you weren't busting your butt, so to speak, to make good things happen. The ELC in itself, Elisa Brewer took over from Carolyn when Carolyn passed away. She was phenomenal from the national level. She learned to understand what all the directors needed, worked with all 39 directors, as well as working with Steve Sanderher and Dave from the AGC national level. And I more or less did what I did with Cheryl. I said, here's what I'm gathering. You also talk to these same people. Look at what I'm proposing and cut out what you want, add what you want, alter what you want. I mean, it was the same thing I did with Cheryl with the chapter. You tell me, Cheryl, how do we make this more what it should be for the chapter members? And Elisa did that, and so I can only take part of the credit, like for the chapter as well as nationally, because I had two great people, Cheryl and Elisa, and they made everything special, no matter where we went. But probably the crowning glory with ELC as president, I'd had requests from around the country. Brokaw, you're the only boy we know who will take us to Anchorage, Alaska. I said, are you kidding me? You want the ELC annual meeting in Anchorage? They said, yeah. I go, but you know, I can do that. John McKibben's a great director in Alaska. Plus, I was stationed there for 18 months in isolated duty. So I still got contacts. So we went to Anchorage, Alaska. Great program, great agenda. If you ask any of the directors what was the highlight, they probably wouldn't tell you the things that we learned. They'll tell you when it was time for opening, here comes a dog sled with 6 dogs and broke on the sled, waving to everybody, welcome to the ELC in Anchorage. People talk about that to this day. They'll never forget going to Anchorage. But that was probably the travel highlight, is getting everybody totally out of the way, where it was totally just us as directors drilling down in what we can do for our membership to continue to make us special. Oh, probably one other item. I'll try to keep it together. I was only the second person to get the Meritorious Service Award as an ELC director. That was special. That they unanimously voted that you have earned this. And I say, other than that, the other one was when the chapter here gave me the SIR award. Very humbling. So that would be my highlights of that for you as I try to regroup. Oh, the North Spokane corridor, the North Spokane freeway, the project with 100 names, with 100 people who told you to go fly a kite. Yes, 2002, Steve Robinson and I were there for the ribbon cutting, and Steve was there in line with WashDOT and the mayor and everybody with the shovel, and that was the opening of the North Spokane corridor, as it became to be known later. It was a project. I served on the committee with Steve and the other presidents, and in 2007, Cheryl and I sat in my office and said, you know what? This needs to happen. Enough is enough. It's been played with by so many people. Cheryl, you and I are going to create a North Spokane corridor campaign, and we're going to take it to the board and get the board's blessing. Are you on board? We're going to be out there. Okay, girl? Cheryl says, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? And I said, that's exactly my point. So we did. We created the campaign, went out and collected 5,000 signatures. I mean, we were at street fairs. We were everywhere and at anything we could have someone let us in the door to talk about the importance. And it was because, you know, watching Seattle and Portland grow, watching Phoenix grow, watching other cities grow, we weren't going to grow until we created a corridor. I-5 out of Seattle was division out of Spokane. And we needed to grow as a city. We needed to grow as a region, because we have to remember Idaho at the same time was also pushing for a route up through Sandpoint. And we did not believe that they should get it and we shouldn't. So yeah, we were everywhere. And I guess our claim to fame when we would go places and present, we would get sugar cookies with yellow frosting and letters in black, NSC. And it took off. It took off. I got to thank Senator Murray, Senator Cantwell, Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers. And I put them all three together because they came together. All three of their chiefs of staff came together. And it became an important issue for the nation, because it's an international highway, you know, and they made it what it was. I mean, for those three and their chiefs of staff to take Wayne Brokaw into the Secretary of Transportation and make a presentation, and we got millions of dollars over time, then to go to Olympia and get the governor and get the Republicans and the Democrats in the state of Washington, Michael Baumgartner from the Senate side, you know, led it for us and was there every step of the way. I mean, it's going to happen. And we're going to have something Seattle will never have. Portland will never have. And it will become the freight route to Canada in the end. But no one cared in the beginning. What are you guys smoking? Where are you drinking? And for us to accomplish what we did as a region, it's everybody coming together and helping. Yeah, it's a great thing to know that Cheryl Stewart and Wayne Brokaw grabbed this thing by the bootstraps and says, come on board, let's go. And the AGC board of directors grabbed it and said, we're going with you. And great accomplishment. Very proud of what the AGC has done. Well, AGC stands for the Associated General Contractors of America. We are the voice of the construction industry. And that doesn't matter if you build bridges, you build high-rise buildings, you build highways, runways. If you're a subcontractor, if you're a supplier, this is a world that creates jobs and creates opportunities like no other industry in the entire world. Again, I go back to President Eisenhower as the example that I learned from and why I got so involved in construction. He created the interstate highway system, which is why America is #1 today. In our industry, the AGC is who built that infrastructure and created all these towns along the way. It's also the industry that gives back to the community more than anyone else. You look anywhere with any program where somebody needs something, who's there? AGC members, whether it's a supplier, whether they're an associate of insurance or they're a subcontractor or the general. Show me another association that steps to the plate to help others the way the AGC does. There is none. Nobody can hold a candle to the AGC. We had apprenticeship programs when I arrived, and they were floundering. There wasn't much support. They were floundering. We realized that we had to do something for our future, for the young people who weren't college bound, etc., and give them a good career. And I have to say, when we hired Mike Ankney, I had a jewel in the rough. And his commitment was to the young people and to apprenticeship. And just to show you how great the AGC is, we have apprenticeship programs that are statewide, that are growing by leaps and bounds, providing young people an opportunity for a good paying career to raise their families with. And I want to make sure that's in there as I close, as to, again, one more piece that the AGC does best, and that's bring young people into the fold and create futures for them with careers. Thank you. We are the AGC.